What up, guys? Back with another one. I'm going to be reacting to Joe Go Wonder in this video. I did start reacting to it, but then Joe waffled about American politics for the first part of it, which is in no way relevant to my channel. And then he has now got to this point in the video. We started talking about the subject of the video, which is the relationship. So I'm going to start the video here. I'll put the link in the description. Please go watch this video on your own accord if you don't want me talking through it. Obviously, if you're watching my video, I presume you want to hear what I've got to say. But if you don't care about my opinion, obviously dislike the video, go in the description, and then go watch his, because it's his content. He's the one doing the hard work. I'm merely just responding what I think about his thoughts. But I'll get straight into it now. Anyway, now we finally got to the dating part of the subject.
And all that stuff. I mean, you're going to have differences of opinion politically, always. Used to, it didn't define our population. Yeah, I remember people not even telling you who they vote for, like even a husband and wife, they just wouldn't talk about it. You didn't talk about politics or religion. You know, you had your own views, you kept them to yourself and be friendly with everybody. But
I would say this is the fault of communism and socialism, because socialism and communism do not separate the private and the public. They obviously, private life still has politics within it. You have to agree with your wife, husband, who's going to do what chore, pick the kids up from school, etc. So there's still politics within the domestic life. But what communism has done is conflated the two together, and socialism as well. Now there's no delineation between the private and the public. Which to me is quite abhorrent. Like, if you want to remain apolitical, that should be your right. I had an ex-girlfriend that would get very mad at people trying to draw her into political arguments, having political opinions when she wanted nothing to do with it. And we don't live in a sort of majoritarianism environment where we need to have everybody participating to form a majority opinion. So yeah, anyway, I'll carry on.
the division now in America that I believe, in my opinion, it's probably it seems to be crippling the West, is the division of men and women.
Yes.
There's there's no reason anymore. And the young men, I think, have figured it out. Like, I come from the generation, maybe the last generation, that really seen that, marriage as an option, like a good option. You find a beautiful wife, that is loyal and honest and respectful, and you want to have children with her and raise kids with her. We called it the American dream. You want to marry her and be the best husband you could be, and all that stuff. That was the dream anyway. I didn't always live up to that standard, and none of us are capable. Well, I guess we are capable, but most of the time there's got to be a lot of forgiveness. Relationships are hard. And I should be somewhat of an expert on that. I made it 30 years. It came to an end, but it's kind of, she initiated it, but it was kind of mutual. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Our kids were raised, they're grown, got kids of their own. But what I'm saying now is I was looking at these, after doing this for 2 days and looking at all the stuff on social media, it got me to thinking, like, holy cow. I seen something about the population decline, and they were saying that in the U.S., each woman in each.
Yeah, this is a common misconception. People are like, the world is overpopulated, yada yada yada. Like, the population is about to start going down. The trend will be downwards. So there's no risk of overpopulation. That's like an old argument we don't even need to acknowledge anymore. It's not relevant. Like, most of the world's population is going to go downhill. China, USA, Japan, Italy, Canada, Australia, pretty much everywhere except like India and Africa. They're the only places, and Israel. They're the only places which are going to continue to grow, at least for like the next 50 to 100 years. Everybody else is going to have shrinking populations.
Each United States citizen, female, needs to have 2.1 children just to sustain the country, and we're down to 1.6. And some nations,
Sure, it's 2.5, not 2.1. But yeah, it is over 2. You need at least 2 to replace mum and dad, and then you need another 1 to of the population. So one family might have 2 kids, and then the next family needs to have 3. 2, 3, 2, 3. So I don't know what. 2.1 is probably still mathematically correct, but me, that would be like just skirting it, really. 2.5 would be a much more feasible figure for actual population growth. 2.1 is still any deviation, any sort of like, disease outbreak or famine or war will cut that one straight in down to like 1.7, 1.8 or something. So I would say 2.5 personally, but I'm not an expert. Ignore me. Do your own research. This is my channel for my opinions. That's what I'm going to do here. So continue though.
Like South Korea, they're already at 0.07. They're like supposedly beyond the point of return. And
yeah, South Korea, Japan, and China and Italy are the main four, I think, where they are cooked essentially. There's nothing they can do. Populations will shrink. It's not as if they all started having babies now, still too late, still going to decline.
Unless they somehow bring in an influx of immigration that has the same views and values that they do, it's that country's doomed, because there's not, eventually you're going to have more old people than young people, and if you have more old people that can't work, even if they have wealth, there's no one to pay to take care of them because there's not enough. And that's the case for a lot of countries right now, especially in the Western world. And it might be just something that's a natural occurrence after a nation obtains a certain amount of wealth. The nuclear family starts to decline because it seems to be true that the women seem to start to fade away from the idea of having one man and having children with it. And whenever you have the government that's incentivizing women to kind of not be good marriage material, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I mean, everybody knows, you've seen it all over social media, and I've checked the stats on it, and that's what the stats say, at least on the internet, so it must be true. Women initiate 80% of the divorces in.
Just on the distinguishment as well between British and English. They always say that we don't say the T in British, which I think is the Southerners. It's the Southerners that don't say the T. If I talk really fast, I say Britain a lot. I will end up saying Britain just because it's faster sentence. Americans miss out T's as well. They replace T's with D's. So as you said, in fact, then it wasn't even a D, it was internet. And they say Britain. What are you on about? Like, so Americans don't pronounce T's too. So it seems very hypocritical for Americans to try and mock British people for not pronouncing their T's in Britain or water, when Americans don't pronounce them either. If anything, they change them to D's. But I like Joe's channel. Joe, for me, is a breath of fresh air. He's a kind of American I could get along with. I find most Americans I encounter in my real life and online to be obnoxious arseholes. But Joe seems down to earth. Seems like a nice guy, and that's why I like watching his videos. But we'll continue.
The United States, in the United States, are being raised by single-parent households. Not saying that both parents aren't involved in that child's life. I'm just saying they live with one or the other parent. And in that scenario, those kids that are males being raised by single women are pretty much giving up, and they're not doing well academically. They're
yeah, as much as like the sort of feminists and the communists want to whinge otherwise, children from single parent households, with the woman being the parent as well, do the worst. Even single parent households where it's the father taking care of the kids perform better than they do when they're with mum. But the best is when they have mum and dad in the household, usually the genetic father as well. There is a case can be made that children become more abused with a stepfather. I had a stepfather. I don't really think he abused me. Did he make a few mistakes sometimes? Yes. Was I sometimes punished for things my brother did? Yes. But I don't think it really did me that much harm. I still talk to him to this day. It's not like being punished for things I didn't do has affected my view of him. I still think stepfathers can be a wonderful part of a child's life, but statistically speaking, The best results come from mum and dad, genetic dad together in one household, all living together. That is what statistically produces the best results.
More apt to have mental disorders, social problems, and less likely to, for whatever reason, get into a relationship with a woman in the future. I seen one that was talking about, they did a survey, and this was with Gen Z. And so this is kids, well, not kids anymore, but these are people under 30. And 63% of the males are single, and only 32% of the females are claiming to be single. But out of the 63% of the boys, 50% of them say that they're not even interested in ever being married or ever having children at all.
Yeah, and if you're a simpleton, mate, that statistically doesn't make sense. How can 1% be much higher than the other? And that's because all the women, these Gen Z women, are all dating the same group of men. Like men are not as bothered if he's on her level. She can be below it. She can be below his level. He doesn't care. But if you flip it the other way around, women do care if he's below. So women essentially are all aiming uphill, or at least maybe across and up a little bit, as men are trying to aim anywhere they can, and it's producing this asymmetry where there's not enough women to go around the men because the women are being too selective. And Western women have this concept in their mind that the bar is in hell, when actually it's completely the opposite. The bar is far too high. Like, I myself have been unmatched for like not owning a car, or when I split from my last relationship and I had to move back in with my mum, I was getting unmatched for living with my mum, even though it was out of my control. I'd split with my girlfriend. I couldn't just move into another house straight away. So Western women have become completely, obnoxious, really, and just they have no compassion for men. They all want somebody who's already the complete package, that they don't have to do any sort of building up of. They just they come in, the life's preset, they can be treated like a princess, and then that's it. And that's nice in a fantasy, but this is the real world, and that's why a lot of these women don't have kids, and that's why, this isn't investing advice, but that's why the sort of cat food stocks, whoever owns like Whiskers, etc., and wine are doing incredibly well, because they know that these are going to be in demand in the future because of so many childless women.
Which made me start asking, okay, all right, these are what we would call, from my generation, fighting age men. Where's their incentive? Where is their incentive, and what is...
This is it's almost like I dropped into a British politics thing, similar to some of the other content on my channel. Then we're talking about fighting age men, because we're usually referring to the small boat migrants as fighting age men, because they are. Or maybe we should say sexually frustrated men, since they keep trying to abuse women in our country.
Is making them like this? Like, what makes them decide? I mean, they said that most of them aren't even engaging into sex or anything. They're not interested in it at all. Like, they're done. And so I started doing a little bit of research, because I watched this documentary originally. All this started 2 days ago. And yesterday, or this morning and yesterday evening, I was doing a lot of research, just checking on some things, trying to tie some things together to make this video. And I pretty much looked at so many things. I don't know which, you look at enough on the internet, you'll get both sides to the story, and some of it will get a little bit of twisted and get confusing. But some of the things I agree with that can't be denied. This is for instance, trying to collect my thoughts here. But children have become weapons, or they've been weaponized for women in the West because of the court systems for child support mainly.
Correct.
But not just child support for children, but there's also federal and state benefits that can be obtained for the parent who gets the children, which is 80% of the time the female gets the children, unless the guy really spends a lot of money and fights to get that child. And everybody knows, that you've heard it 1,000 times, but my body, my choice. The woman can either choose not to have that child and do the unthinkable, and the man has no say whatsoever over that. But if she decides that she wants to have that child, the man also has no say. He's going to pay for 18 years.
Yeah, exactly. Women have more reproductive rights than men, even though they try to pretend otherwise. Like, imagine I have a twin sister, right? And I get a woman pregnant, and she gets pregnant to a man at the exact same time, right? My sister, can opt out of being a parent. I cannot. I'm trapped. I am given the excuse of, oh well, you shouldn't have put it in something that you didn't want to be a parent. But that same argument wouldn't apply to my twin sister. She would be like, oh, you need bodily autonomy. Yeah, and get rid of the child. And this is not me saying I'm against abortion as such. I know that's going to trigger some other people. So I think the abortion thing is like there's a sort of middle ground. I think the UK does it quite good at the minute, where abortion is available, but only up to 12 weeks. Whereas in the USA, it's psychotic, and they want to be able to abort a child all the way up to birth, essentially. And some crazy leftists talk about abortions after the child is born. So the UK is completely cooked in that regard. Quite honest.
No matter what. And this is so mainstream now. It's so talked about on social media to where Gen Z has heard it loud and clear. They grew up with social media. Not only have 80% of them been raised by single mothers, they've been sitting at the kitchen table listening to those single mothers talk about the thing about men that they do like, the thing about men that they don't like.
Yeah, exactly. And I see seems to be something particularly I see in the Black American community. Is they say, if you were raised by a single mother, how can you not respect women? And the answer is in the question. Like, they've seen how their mother behaved. They see how their mother treated men. They see how their men talked about men. They saw their mother's opinions. And if your mum is talking about your gender, if you same with your dad, if you had a dad and he kept talking about how crap, how crap women are, you would start taking that as being toxic. And it's the same with the single mums. If you're going to be a single mum, you need to be lifting men up and be nice. Even if you're not going to be dating, you can't be talking smack about men all the time if you've got sons, because that will leave a mark, whether positive or negative. Maybe it'll be positive and they'll think, oh, I need to be good to women, in which case I think they'll be taken advantage of by bad women. Or it'll be the opposite direction, where they just completely just shut down and think, no, get women, why would I do that? My mum was completely abhorrent towards men that she used to date and me, just because I'm a man. So, there's some nuance there.
And they're actually seeing what the mom brings home versus what their mom is telling them to be like. I seen one little video where this kid, he's probably 13, 14 years old, and the mom's yelling at him, you should be a better man than that, blah, blah, blah. You should do this and you should do that, or no woman's gonna have you. And he shouts back at his mom, and he's like, well, that's not who you bring home. And she, naturally it shut her up because she realized he's right. And it's almost as if women just...
I bet that tore at her soul as well. When he said that back, I bet she actually did some introspection then and thought, shit. Maybe I'm wrong, but from what he's saying, it sounds like she did.
I think that men are easily manipulated, which we have been, but we kind of was willing to do it because of the benefits, the benefits that it came with. Sometimes, you love the woman so much. Most men, I believe men have true love. I mean, we're willing to, most of the time, die for our families and, protect our wives with our lives, even when they don't have children. It's almost like natural. It's like something that we agree upon, an unwritten rule or something.
Yeah, of course. If we've got a wife and a family, if they're in danger, we're going to risk our lives to make sure they survive. I think that's quite normal. I don't think that's out of the realms of normality. I would say that's evolutionary response to make sure that your genes pass on to the next generation. And you can maybe say that's a selfish way of looking at it, but that's how animals are. Animals are incredibly selfish. The game where we are all playing here is pass on our genes to the next generation to procreate. That is what everything on Earth is doing, from the smallest bacteria all the way up to human beings and everything in between. every animal is trying to pass its genes on, make sure it survives. And if the organism itself perishes at some point, it's those children that carries on its genetics.
But it's gotten to the point now for a couple decades to where that same woman that you're willing to die for don't mind threatening your future. I'll leave you, I'll take half of your stuff. I'll leave you and you can pay me alimony and child support.
Yeah, it's completely cooked, man. That's where it's all gone wrong. Women do not view men the same way men view women anymore. I saw a post as well recently, it's in a woman saying that I finally accept that men love women more than women love men. And that's right. We have always been the more loving ones. Women are very much more conditional with how they love men. Men are not, essentially, unless men will only really leave women if they're not getting any bedroom action or the woman isn't providing peace and is continually combative. But women will leave for all list of reasons. I didn't feel loved, didn't feel seen, didn't do enough housework, and all this like nonsensical bullcrap, which isn't actually important to making the relationship continue.
Without hesitation. Now this man is up against a force that he cannot defeat. There's no way to defeat the court system, you know? And what I've realized after the little bit of research that I've done, a lot of men aren't even trying because of that. There's no incentive. Like there's no, ambition is a dying thing amongst Western men, not just in.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I've given up dating in the West. I mean, still matched with some women on Tinder in the time that I was talking to like sort of Filipinas and the African women, etc. that I used Tinder passport feature to talk to. But yeah, I've completely given up. Why would I date somebody in this country? They don't want to have a family. Just want to be. They have Peter Pan syndrome. They have a completely cockamamie attitude towards men and relationships. They seem to think that relationships are something that they aren't. I don't know. I'm not making my point very well here, to be honest. But yeah, I am one of these men that's just completely just giving up on dating in the West. A complete waste of time, to be honest.
The United States, but all over the West. Ambition there's almost no point to it. Because the only thing that ambition can get you right now is you can upgrade whatever that guy as a young man sees as a more valuable woman. The more money you get, you can get what women would consider a more valuable woman. Not morally, just looks. Nothing more, just looks. And I've watched all these videos with women or people on the street asking like, you know, hey, what do you want from a man? Of course, 6 foot, 6 figures, all this crazy stuff. Must be this, must be like that, you know. And then the same interviewer will be like, well, what are you going to provide him? Oh, me, all this. What is that, you know?
Yeah, and that's not enough, ladies. Your body is one of 3 things men value: sex, food, peace. If women provide men these 3 things, they will not leave you. You are providing those 3 things, you know. And I would say those 3 things go together to constitute what is respect. So then, and respect is needed for a relationship. If you aren't doing those 3 things, then you don't respect him, and he will not feel loved. He will not feel as though he's valuable to the relationship, and ultimately he's probably going to cheat or, you know, just stop opening up to you, and then the relationship's going to die because then you're not going to feel loved and you're going to leave because you've got all these crazy ideas about how you should be treated, how we should love you even if you're not putting out, which is completely insane because sex is a part of a normal functioning relationship. If you aren't having sex with your husband, you are dooming it to die. It's your fault. It may be his fault as well for not making you feel sexy. Men do have a responsibility to like open up their women to be open towards sexual intercourse. It's still on the women as well to be able to overcome their apathy, to be able to get sexually involved with their partner. And that's not, I would say that's something that's plagued my relationships, my last relationships. Sex was, in fact, no. Actually, one girlfriend, I think, with the sex did break down, actually. break up. The rest of them, actually, the sex was continuing even into the relationship breaking down. But they didn't provide peace, which is back to the other point of three things. I'm forgetting where I'm pointing. Three things. Must have those three things. But men are simple. Three things for men. Women need like more like 10 to 20 things to feel valued in a relationship. Men are so simple, and women have complicated it all to the point where they don't even understand men anymore. And we're such simple creatures. We're easy to keep happy.
And the proof is in the pudding, because the research on the dating apps. So what was it? 80% of the women go for the top 10% of the men, and then those same 80% of the women expect that one of those top 10% men are going to have them. They would be crazy to accept.
Yeah, it's like Leonardo DiCaprio. Why do you think he keeps going through different women? Because he can. He doesn't need to settle down. If you're one of these top 10% men, why are you going to settle down with just some average woman? The average woman should be trying to get with the average man, but that's not what is occurring. The average woman thinks that they deserve somebody who's driving around in a Jaguar, Rolls Royce, or a Ferrari if you want to use a non-British brand. But yeah, they're like completely out of touch, to be honest.
Any woman. Why would they? Your manipulation ain't going to be as good as the cumulative. They're screwing 80% of the people that's on that same dating app. They've heard it all. They've heard every manipulation story. They've heard that I'll never leave you, I'll never cheat on you. They've got women buying them gifts, telling them how much money they make. And just for the record, ladies, if you're still watching, hopefully you are, I don't think there's a man on earth that cares how much money you make. Whether you work at Mickey D's or...
Yeah, exactly. We do not give a shit. I mean, it's nice, I suppose, if you marry a doctor or a high up lawyer, solicitor. It's a nice bonus, but it's not necessary. It's not something we value. It's not in the list of things we are looking for. You know what I mean? If we go on a date with you, we ask you what job you do. Say you work at McDonald's, or you say you work at Microsoft as like an engineer. Like, to us, it's almost the same value proposition. We pretty much don't care which one it is. You know what I mean? It's like, for the long-term functioning of a family, that your job is irrelevant, essentially. I mean, if you've got a good job, it just provides potentially a good safety net. But then, if you've got a really corporate job where you're never going to be in the house, is that then going to affect the family? I think that's what a lot of men from this point forward will be asking. Like, is she going to be a good mum? Because if she's never around, who is going to be able to take care of the children unless I become house husband? You know what I mean?
Goldman Sachs, no one cares. Literally, no one cares. Millionaire, or you got food stamps. If you're a good woman, you're a good woman. Period.
Yeah, exactly. A good woman who works at McDonald's is preferable to a bad woman who works at Microsoft. We would much rather have the McDonald's worker who's not going to be a basket case.
Men and women are so different. And it's almost like we watch different social media, because you hear the men saying the same thing. And there's a few women too. There's a few women that's men's rights advocates, I guess you would say.
Yeah, I would say Roma Army is a good one. I know some people don't like her and think she's a shill, but I actually believe in Roma Army. I think that she's her heart's in the right place. She lost a male friend to suicide, so you can see that she has a very visceral reaction to how society is treating men, and maybe understands more than the average woman why men are just deciding to either opt out of dating or opt out of life altogether. And if you're watching this, please don't opt out of life. You can opt out of dating, but don't do suicide thing. I myself have been suicidal in the past. For about 3 years, continuously, every second of the day, suicide. It would be like, wake up, suicide. Have a cup of tea, suicide. Have breakfast, work. Start work, suicide. Go on break, suicide. It's just like, yeah. So please don't do it. It will get better at some point, and when you're in the midst of it, you are a ship with no anchor, just floating around sea. But it will get better eventually, as long as you don't end the game early. Rage quit life will succeed eventually. You will become better, and those thoughts will almost completely disappear. I would say I only have those thoughts now maybe 1% of the time, and they only visit for like maybe an hour or two before they then disappear. And I know now, I personally, now that I believe in God, would never do that. I know that God loves me. I don't turn this into proselytizing. I'm not trying to convince people to come to God. I would never do that. I want to talk to God, put in the comments and I'll leave you my comments, what I think. Not as if my opinion is relevant on that subject, I don't think, but...
But you hear them saying it, but it's almost like the women have just went deaf. They've went deaf to what men are expect or want. Men, we value purity. All men, no matter what. I'm 50 years old and I still value that. I'm not really looking for...
Yeah, women don't grasp that men have two boxes. We have the fun-only box. We have the fun-only box and we have the relationship wife box, right? Women don't understand this. They mix up these two things. They think that if they can have the sex box and the relationship box are the same thing, and they're not the same thing. Some women do not understand this. You're them a man who has standards and won't just entertain like the OnlyFans girls and the women being around the streets. They think you're an incel for not wanting that. But then they themselves are allowed to have preferences, that you're over 6 foot, that you weren't so much. Like, women have just completely lost their mind in the West, which is why many people are going to the Philippines, because although there's certainly issues over there, it's less prevalent and issues are different, I would say. Not the same. They haven't been brainwashed like they have in the West.
Girlfriend, I don't care how pure she is. And I think me and Gen Z have something in common, but I've already had the long marriage. But I find it a little intriguing that each year younger, like if you go the people that are 30 now, and then you count backwards, 29, 28, blah, 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 you get on down to 18, the number gets higher of the count of men that are saying that they never want children and they never want to be married. Like if you go all the way down to 18, it's something like 87% or something. And
I think that's cope. Personally, I think that's what people do when they can't have something. They tell themselves they don't want it, and that's what the women are doing as well. When they were like, we'll be happy out not having children and being wine ladies at 50. Like, it's cope. That's all this is. It's from the Gen Z and like the older generation are coping. Of course, down you want to have kids. Of course, you want to have that happiness. That's what we're all predisposed to do. Of course, there's some people who don't want to have children, and that's always been a thing. It was a thing in the 90s. There'd be some people who just didn't want kids, but they were like the marginal outliers. They were the exceptions to the rule. Now it is now young people are producing an image as though that is the rule, but I don't believe them. I think they are lying to themselves to cope with the reality that dating is much harder than it should be at their age. I mean, dating's always harder when you get younger, I think, 17, 18, 19-year-old man. Women value maturity and stuff, so, your options open up as you get older, with mid-30s being the sort of the peak of the pyramid. In your mid-30s, you have, like, access all the way from, 20 years old all the way up to 70 if you really want. Whereas when you're 18, like, a lot of the older women are not that bothered. Whereas when you're certainly in your late 20s, all the way through your 30s, you have so much more access. But unfortunately, it's just that the options available are insufficient, I think. They are not wife material. So that's I personally don't even do that. I've had enough sexual partners in my life. I don't need to keep adding on extra ones at this point. I'm now focused in on finding the wife and creating my family.
This was like a first year freshman college year that they did some kind of Pew Research study to where they had asked all these 18-year-old boys, and it was 87% said, no, I don't want kids ever. I never want to be married. And I can't help but think about the other research that I did as far as the statistics go. 80% of them were probably raised by a single female. Not saying that those two things correlate, but I don't know how they couldn't. I don't have any proof to that.
No, well, they do correlate. What you mean is that correlation doesn't mean causation. I think that's what you mean, Joe. But yeah, they certainly do correlate, for sure. You would be an idiot to think that there's no correlation there, but we can't draw a delineation to it, causation. That's what we can't sort of do. We can only speculate that and theorize that it's the cause. But what I'm going to do anyway, I'm going to end this video here because I kind of think we're going to rerun the same territory here. I'll put the link for this video in the description so you can watch his video. Joe is a good content creator. I think he's thoughtful and introspective. Yeah, and obviously, if you like my video, if you're still here at this point in the video, please give it a like and leave a comment in the description. Hopefully a nice one, but if not, call me an idiot. And yeah, I'm gonna see you in the next one. Thanks for listening, everybody. Toodaloo.